So this is the second part of the first violin seating auditions for the Spartanburg Philharmonic Youth Orchestra. This is the Dvorak excerpt. It's from his Ninth Symphony, the New World Symphony, the finale movement, and it starts at measure 57 and ends at measure 66, the excerpt. Now, the audition tempo for this excerpt is 138 to the quarter, but in this video I'll be playing at 104 to the quarter. One, two, three, four. Now, obviously, this isn't as fast as the Nabucco Overture, so it might seem more doable, but I think it's actually a little bit more tricky because there's more going on with the dynamics, first of all, and also you need to focus on your bow arm a little bit more for this because it is also very key that you have a good bow arm when you're focusing on the dynamics in this specific excerpt. First, let's focus on the dynamics, mainly the crescendo going into the forzando. Starting at measure 58, you will see a triplet that crescendos into a dotted eighth note, which has a forzando under it. Now, this is how you want to practice that. Starting at measure 58 with that triplet, you want to be in the lower half of the bow, first of all, because you are playing at a double F. I'd say it's more of a forte that's just very confident because you can't really get much louder than that. So all this crescendo and forzando, I mean, it can't really get above a double F because that's not really in the string player's skill set. So unless you're very, very sure that you can play a triple F, a quadruple F, try just to make these crescendos and forzandos pop. All right, so lower half of the bow so we can make that crescendo really work. See what I did there? Okay, again, lower half of the bow, and we want to use the whole bow, going to the tip, basically. Now, once you speed this up, you're probably going to need to use a little bit of speed to get to the tip, maybe a little bit extra pressure to get that crescendo, and that's all right. That's what you want to do. And then, once you get to the tip, set your bow. Don't lift it up, just set your bow. Then, prepare to use a lot of speed, a lot of pressure on this one. That forzando is very key to this excerpt. If you miss the crescendo a little bit, that's okay. Make sure to work on it because you can't have random forzandos popping out of the audience, but at the same time, the forzando is really what you're trying to get to on this. It's the destination on this sort of journey that you're undertaking as a musician. All right, so let's put that together. So as you can see, we had those full bows for the triplets, followed by these short and very forceful bows for the forzandos. Now I will get into a bit of the bowings later, but first I'll note that you can't have everything after the forzando be super quiet or equivalent to what you just played. It has to still be loud, but not as loud as that forzando. You can't have, because there's no difference between the forzando and anything else. You also can't have, because you're not playing piano, you're playing double F. Again, you can't really do double F and forzando, so just try and have it at a comfortable forte. But don't make it any more, don't make it any less. Now, a note about the bow. It's very important that you have a very good controlled bow arm for the dynamics, but there's also a certain style that we're playing in this piece, and if you don't have a good control over your bow arm, it will be harder to get that style to appear to the judges. It sounds less like it is, short, forceful, staccato, militaristic. It sounds more lazy. And that is because some people focus on the staccatos over the 16th notes that you see in measure 58 and onwards, and some people don't. And that creates a big difference in sounds. I'll show you. Because once you start taking out those staccatos, it sounds less like you're playing staccato 16th notes and more like you're playing just kind of triplets all over the place. For example, starting at measure 57. Again, that sounds okay, you know, the dynamics and everything, that's all still there. But those 16th notes, they're dragging, they're running into one another, and you can't have that happen, not in an audition and not in the concert setting. Once you show the judges that you're focusing on the staccatos, making them shorter than everything else and not just like another triplet, they will know that you are an attentive player, and that will be a pretty good chance that you have a strong chair placement. So to really make those staccatos pop, really make this style work, really make this a piece that you're playing appropriately, you need to focus on having a good stopping ability with your bow arm. So let's try measure 58. See what I did there. Got to the tip, pushed, and then stopped. Now I didn't go off the string or anything. I just went. And what you do once you're here, kind of middle of the bow, stop and then push again. And you don't want to do the same forzando kind of style. Again, you don't want to push all the way to the end of your bow. You just want to give it like a little bit of a push. Still loud, but a little bit of a push, not like a forzando push. And that's because not only do you not have a lot of room to do that, but also because you want to make everything after that forzando so nice and equal, nice and clean, nice and crispy. So this is what it sounds like when you are paying attention to those staccatos. So just be thinking in your head as you're counting that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously don't accent those staccato 16th notes too much, because then the forzandos will not matter anymore. But still, just think that in your head. Make sure to put the staccato on every single 16th note in that pattern. Another way you could practice that is look at the finale movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which has a very similar figure. I'm looking at the Liedeg arrangement right now. In measure that is 17, you see this figure. And that's just that 8th note and 16th note pattern over and over again. There's no triplet before it, and so that is a good way to practice this, because that triplet in measure 58, it can kind of throw you off. It can kind of make you think, okay, well, everything sounds like a triplet now. But in measure 17 of the Beethoven, all you have to focus on is that 8th note and 16th note and 8th note and 16th note. So it kind of forces you to play in the correct style. And obviously Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, a lot different than this piece. So it really does help to look at that. So I'd recommend looking at the finale movement of the finale movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, because it has a lot of that rhythm in there without any of that triplet complication. And once you get that down, once you get the Beethoven down, this Dvorak will be a breeze. Anything else of note, make sure to focus on the dynamics at the end when you're at 62. Do try and get out of the way, but not too much. Always leave room for diminuendo. And watch your intonation. Certainly watch your intonation. There's a lot of diminished scale work going on here. Certainly if you have a book that includes practicing with diminished scales, look at that. Certainly that will help with this piece. Other than that, that is all there is to look at for the New World Symphony excerpt.